much time do you spend on dealing with miscommunication, unraveling information, missing information? Go on, write down your gut instinct. How much time, say in a day, a week, a month of your life? Research tells us that leaders spend at least 20 to 30% of their working life on these issues, on the fallout from miscommunication. That's like working the whole of October, the whole of November and half of December with nothing to show for it because you're just putting out fires. Miscommunication is costing you energy, time, sanity, success. In this video, I'm sharing 5 steps that put a stop to this, and it centers on one word, which is perhaps the most loaded word in the English language. It's the fastest route to a fight. Listen to me. It's the fastest route to getting someone to disengage. Are you listening to me? And it's the fastest route to making someone feel cared for, understood, loved, preferably with a bicky and a cup of tea. This word is listen. If you want to stop miscommunication costing you your success, click on the link below the video if you're ready to invest in yourself, and let's work together. This is what we're covering: how you communicate with people, how they communicate with you, and how you communicate with yourself. And at the center of this is your sanity, success, sustainability. Let's dive in with step number 1. I was rushing to an event I was speaking at, and I was at the finer end of on time. I walk into the hotel where I think it is, and I ask the receptionist, is this where the name of the event is? She says, yes. Walk down the stairs, turn left. My heart leaps. I rush down the stairs, turn left, and I can't find the event anywhere. I was in the wrong hotel. It's really obvious that that was miscommunication, right? Because we didn't get the result that we wanted. But sometimes miscommunication is invisible. Here's what I mean. My niece was babysitting the neighbour's children one evening, and the little boy pipes up and says, we're doing Islam in religious studies at school. And he says to her, Muslims pray to Salah. And my niece says, no, the prayer is called Salah. If you don't know, the Arabic word for prayer is Salah. No, says the boy, Muslims pray to Mo Salah. The only reference this boy has to the word Salah is the footballer, and that's where his brain goes immediately. Now you know that if the teacher had said, do you understand? The boy would have said, yes. If the teacher had said, do you have any questions? The boy would have said, no. He was probably bursting to tell someone this amazing news, and I'm so grateful he told my niece. Now this happens all the time. There's an immediate association with certain words. When you say something, it doesn't always mean the same thing for the other person. So when it's an invisible mismatch like this, what can you do to solve it? Before we get on to that, hat number 1 is just because you put it out there doesn't mean it lands. So what is communication? Well, it's important that you know this because the rest of what I'm going to say will make more sense. Step number 2, there's an assumption that communication is linear. You know, someone says something, the other person listens, they hear what's being said, understand what's being said, right? Somebody is broadcasting information, the other person receives the information and understands it. There's communication. But as we've just seen with the couple of examples I've shared, that isn't the case, is it? So that's your old way. You're going to ditch that, and your new way of communicating, thinking about communication, is closing the loop. You close the communication loop. How do you do that? Well, there was a study done in the USA where they looked at the brains of people who were communicating. One person was speaking, the other person was listening, and the person who was speaking, there was a specific area of their brain that lit up. And when the person listening understood, had an aha moment around what the speaker was saying, their brain lit up in the same exact place. Wow, the same exact place. It's a light bulb moment, a literal light bulb moment happens. I love that idea of a light bulb in our heads, right? Now the research says that when the listener stops understanding what the speaker is saying, the light bulb switches off. They decouple. So the brains are synchronizing when there is communication, and they detach, they decouple when the person doesn't get it. How can you make sure in your daily life, in your meetings, in your high stakes moments, that what you're saying is getting through? Well, you test the power of your message. How do you do this? Really simple. What you do is this: you prepare your piece, the first couple of paragraphs. If you don't nail it in the first paragraph, by the way, you've lost people. And you approach someone, you say, can I share my thoughts on, or I'm going to be speaking about, can I pass it by you? I'd like you to hear what I'm going to say. And they will say yes, because they are nice people. And when you say your piece, you ask them 2 questions. 1, what's the big idea you took away? And number 2, what are the 3 words that stuck with you? And ask them to tell you straight away, not to overthink, not to think, but to respond in the moment immediately. You want to get a feel for what they are thinking right then. Now, if you are asking more than one person, you don't ask them to tell you, you give them a piece of paper and a pen each, and you ask them to write it down, or to use their phones to type a message out to you, or their laptops and to send you the information. Why? Because you don't want to contaminate their thinking. You don't want any one of them to listen to what somebody else is saying, go, oh yeah, that's a good point. You want what stuck with them because of what you said, not because of what somebody else is saying. And what you're looking for is a general consensus. Oh yeah, they got the big idea I wanted to share. Oh yeah, they get that point. That's good. A win for you is when people repeat certain words, the key words that you want them to know. This does 2 things. It tells you whether you're doing a great job at communicating what you want to get across, but also you're getting feedback from them about what interests them, what they notice. This is important. We'll get onto it later. What about when someone is communicating with you? How can you make sure that you get what they're trying to share with you? Well, when I'm speaking to somebody over the phone and I'm trying to find out information, I always say, can I say back to you what I understood? It saves me, ideally, another email, another phone call, because I'm using my words, my understanding, my process and way of thinking, and speaking it back to them. These are the sorts of phrases that you can use. You can say to someone, can I say back? Can I check? Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. Can I share what I take away from this? When you do this, you're not only saving yourself time and effort, you're also signaling to the person you're interacting with that you care about them. You want to understand. You value their input, their thinking. You value them. And when you're dealing with team members or colleagues or clients, I mean, these are really important things for them to feel. This is you moving beyond listening. You're tuning into the undercurrent, the unsaid. Aha, number 2 is communication only happens when there is change, when there is a new thought, a new idea, an aha, a light bulb moment, a change in behavior. Communication equals change. If it doesn't bring about change, communication has not happened. How can you increase the chance of nailing it? Well, you do it with step number 3. When I was with the BBC, we broadcast to 200 million people. We covered a huge part of the world, Iran to Morocco, Turkey to Sudan. And we had to sift through loads of stories every week and decide which to keep and which to ditch. And there were 2 words that helped us do this. And they are, who cares? Who cares? Not in a dismissive, flippant sort of way, like, ugh, who cares? No, it was led with inquiry. Who cares? Who cares about this? We wanted to be able to appeal to a lot of the 200 million potential viewers of our program. In your world, this is what this looks like. It's you asking the question, why should that person care? People don't care about information. They care about what's in it for them. And so the question becomes, how can I make them care about this important thing? If we look at my hierarchy of a brilliant communicator, you can see that inform is at the bottom, it's the lowest rung. Educate is the middle, and at the very top, the pinnacle, is interest. Most people, experts, leaders, CEOs, they are stuck in inform and educate mode. It's all about the big announcement, the product, the name of the campaign, the study, the survey, the thing that they want you to know all about because they are brilliant. They've nailed it. They have a new product to share with you. Nobody cares. Nobody cares unless you make them care. What you want to nail is interesting people. So number 3 is interest, not inform. This is your new communicating norm. If you want to know how to do this, click on the link below the video and let's work together if you're ready to invest in yourself. How can you increase the chance of someone wanting to know what you're going to say next? Step number 4 is the solution. The guests, the experts, the leaders that we had on my program, the best people to have at conferences, on stage, on panel discussions, are the ones who don't make the mistake that most people make. Most people, when they're asked a question, they start with what's important to them. The ones who are invited back never did this. They always framed the very first thing that they said with what's important to the person whose interest they want. The audience, the stakeholder, whoever it is that they want paying attention to them. So for example, on my TV program, it would be the impact of an issue on the economy, on business, on people's pockets, on people. The experts and leaders who started with that were the ones that we had to resist having on speed dial because that was exactly what we were after. But because we're human, we don't do this by default. We have to be trained to think and speak this way. Here are a couple of things that will really help you nail it. Identify, define the stakeholder who you want a yes from, the person whose buy-in you want, a specific person who you want to go, oh, that's a good point. I want to know what you're going to say next. This is your stakeholder. And then you want to define the 6 Ps. The 6 Ps are what's their pain, what's their problem, current priority, their pleasure state, that's the pain-free state that you can help them get to. What is your promise to them? What do they get from doing the thing that you are asking them to do or that you would like them to do, the next step that you want them to take? What's in it for them? What is your promise to them? This last P that I'm going to say is actually what you start with first. Perspective. You want to speak, communicate, put information out from the perspective of the stakeholder that you want buy-in from. This is the biggest mistake that people make. They communicate from their perspective. They speak about what's important to them. You don't want to do that because no one's listening. You want to identify your perspective. It's important to you, it's why you're doing all this. But after you identify it, you go through your own pain, priority, problem, pain-free state, you park it because you don't want it to colour the rest of what you're doing, which is looking at everything through the lens of the stakeholder. So, number 4 is stakeholder-centric communication. You look through the lens of your stakeholder, you put yourself in their shoes, and you speak to their Ps. But even if you do all these things, without step number 5, no one cares about what you have to offer. Step number 5. There was a study in the USA that looked at why certain surgeons were sued and others weren't. Certain surgeons were much more likely to be sued. So let's group them into group A and B. Group A is a surgeon who talks to the patient, knows their name, remembers something about them, maybe their favourite ice cream, the name of their dog. Group number B, these are surgeons who are getting on with the important work of being great surgeons and spending all of their time on that specific thing, not paying so much attention to the patient. They don't really have chats with them in the same way. Which group do you think was more likely to be sued? Group A or Group B? It was Group B, who even if they made a simple mistake, people went for them. Group A, when something went wrong, patients or their families were more likely to forgive them. Why? Because they had a connection, a human connection with that person. All of these steps are useless if the people you want buy-in from don't feel they connect with you, don't feel that there is some sort of relationship, something that makes them go, I like you, I like you. This is my attempt at drawing a surgeon. And so number 5 is human connection trumps all. And really, the utopia, the pinnacle of this is when someone feels they're like you. When you put these 5 steps together, you minimize the chance of there being miscommunication, misinformation, mishaps that really cost you your success. If you want to make sure that you do not lose 72 working days every year because of miscommunication, then click on the link below the video and let's get working together if you're ready to invest in yourself. Now, of course, you could do all these 5 steps and still not be respected as the leader you are. There are 3 laws that make sure this doesn't happen to you. Watch this video next to find out what they are. I'll see you there. Bye.